The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday, 3 o'clock. And if you happen to miss an episode, you could catch me on the mainstreetcode.com or on the Apple or Spotify for past episodes. And when we talk about our code, we talk about choice, organization, direction, and education. We help hundreds of advisors across the United States, whether they be individuals or businesses. We help us attorneys, CPAs, and other insurance professionals. We are an independent wholesaler of many different insurance companies, and we have the knowledge and the background to assist in getting the right kind of coverage for whatever your needs are. Today, I want to talk about something we've talked about in the past, and does your business have a will? For many people, their business is their biggest asset. I don't care if you're a contractor or you're a plumber or you own a farm or you own a computer business. That asset is the biggest asset you have, and you want to protect it. If you have partners, you have a business partner, you need some sort of will. You need some sort of agreement, like a buy-sell agreement, so that on disposition of the business, anything happens to you, whether you become disabled or you pass away, or he passes away or she passes away, that you're not working with their spouse, because the automatic disposition is their heirs and their children or their spouses will automatically be your partners if you don't have some sort of agreement to basically buy them out. And we usually do that buyout through life insurance. And even if you're a sole proprietor, okay, and you own your own business, and let's say you have multiple children, you have a disposition issue, because if you pass away and you haven't made any plans for the value of your business, it could go away for nothing, or you might want one child that takes it over, but there's a real value. You might want to sell that business prior to going away, or partner with people, because the value of that could depreciate to nothing. Or if you have a child that's interested in the business and you hand over that business to that child, what happens to the other children not in the business? So typically what we'll do is we want to treat our children equally. Most people do, I think. We'll set up some life insurance that will benefit them so that they won't have a share in the business. They'll have money as opposed to the business. So life insurance is used in many ways to equalize the distribution of your business should you decease, or if you become disabled, which is another big issue. I want to talk about this today specifically because the Supreme Court just made a humongous ruling this week regarding life insurance. And it was a 9-0 ruling. And this goes back to a case that occurred last year with the Treasury Department. And let me backstep for 1 second and talk about the components of a life insurance contract. Any life insurance contract you have has 3 components. One is who owns the policy. 2 is the insured, whoever, is responsible, who's going to happen to that person. And 3 is the beneficiary. Now, why is that important I bring this up? Because this lawsuit, which the Supreme Court upheld, applies to the taxation after this big life insurance policy paid out. And when it comes to businesses, it very specifically applies to people buying insurance for the business. So I'm going to take you through this, and whether you're an individual, this is very important. Who's the owner, who's the beneficiary, and who's the insured. So when something happens to that insured, who has the direction of ownership and is in charge of paying for it, and then who's the ultimate beneficiary, could be very crazy and is all done by contract, not by will, not by corporate structure, not by anything else. It's all done by how that contract is structured. So here's what happened. We had this big company owned by the Connolly family, and they had a big life insurance contract. It was owned by the corporation. One of the people died in that. I think it was 2 brothers. I don't know all the details, but the specific, what happened in this ruling is detrimental. So what happened is they had a big life insurance policy. One of the principals of the company died, and the IRS said the company owned it and the company was the beneficiary, with the intent of, when they got the money, they would distribute it to the spouse to take care of her ownership of the company. All well and good. What happened is they valued the company, and this was a big company. This is, let's say, a $25 million company, but it pertains to everybody who has set up what they call a buy-sell agreement or some sort of agreement. So let's say the company was valued at $25 million. And let's say the insurance policy was for $10 million. These aren't real numbers. I just want to make a point about what happened. So they took that $10 million and they added it to the value of the company. So for IRS purposes, the company is now worth $35 million. And they had to give up shares of that company. That insurance contract was intended to pay off different parties a piece of that. Well, all of a sudden, the spouse got hit with a humongous tax, much more than she would have, because now that benefit has become taxable as part of that person's estate, and the children actually got the tax. And then they had a problem because now, instead of a $25 million company, it's now worth $35 million. So truthfully, the spouse should have gotten $17 million, for argument's sake, and the insurance policy only covered $10. Big deal, big difference. So where are you coming up with the other $7 million to pay off that spouse? That's part of the case. But there was a child, and it got very intricate. The problem was the ownership. So the insurance companies have found a way to have the ownership and the beneficiary set up as either an LLC or a trust or a cross purchase. There's all kinds of ways you can structure it. But anyone who's set up what they call a buy-sell agreement, any business who's done this kind of planning, needs to relook at their plans and need to give us a call, because we have different structures and different ways of setting up the plan so this will not happen. So it happened to a very big company. It's going to happen to very small companies, and they've now made this taxable to the estate, and it's creating all kinds of problems in distributing the company and in taxation, and costing people tons of money that they wouldn't have had to pay had they done the proper planning. But now the IRS has new rulings on this, and this just happened this week, where all the way up to the Supreme Court. We talked about it last year, and this is what happened. So basically, many of the buy-sell plans, they call them cross-purchase, where I'll buy insurance on my partner will buy insurance on me, but the ownership and the beneficiaries ultimately are very important as to who gets the proceeds if something happens to my partner, who gets the proceeds of what happened to me. And the reason it's done that way is so that the participating family of the partner doesn't all of a sudden take charge of a company they may know nothing about or may not have. So they get cash. They get basically, it's like a stock redemption. They redeem the interest in their corporation by buying an insurance policy that will pay them out. And that's what a buy-sell agreement does. And that's why the structures have changed dramatically. And you're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm going to go more into this after the break, but I think it's very important that if you're a company, A, that you set up a buy-sell agreement, that you have some kind of agreement in place, B, that you review it every year, and I'm going to tell you why. But we're going to talk more about that right after this break. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. My name is Neil Himmelstein. If you want to reach me and discuss this, 631-647-4694. I encourage all businesses to reach out to me and go over this very important topic. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. And if you're just tuning in, welcome. Before the break, we were talking about, does your business have a will? Do you have a buy-sell agreement in place? The importance of setting up a will for your business. With many people, most people, it's their largest asset. And I don't care whether your business is a $1 billion business, a $1 million business, a $500,000 business. What happens to that business when you pass? And even if you're a sole entrepreneur, you want that distribution to all your kids have a piece of the business, but many of them may not be interested in the business, or your spouse may have no interest or have no expertise in running that business. So we create what's called buy-sell agreements, or you create it for your business. And if you don't have one, please contact us. Very important. And if you do have one, there's some recent IRS rulings. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, which had made a huge policy taxable into a state, which it shouldn't have been. And it's created all kinds of distribution problems. And we don't want that to happen to you. So if you do have one, there's a couple of things that you need to know. First off, you need to have an annual review. And I'll tell you why. One is the value of your business changes all the time. With more sales, with more this, with more that. If with a growing business, even with a business that's not doing so well, the value changes. So if you're going to have an agreement that's going to pay off somebody if something happens to you, or something happens to your partner to pay off his family or her family, you need an agreement in place, and you need insurance in place to make that happen so that you don't have to liquefy the business in order to disperse of the shares. The idea of having a buy-sell agreement is very important. Let's say you're a small business and you do $1 million a year combined, and you have a partner, or you have multiple partners. Let's just say one partner for argument's sake. And the business is valued by the IRS at $1 million. Okay? So your partner's spouse will automatically, without having something in place, be the beneficiary of your partner's half of the business. Does your partner's spouse know anything about your business? Do they have expertise in your business? They might be a nice person, but are they a good business person? Many times, they're not involved in the business. So you want to pay them off. So what do you have to pay them off? So if the business is valued at $1 million, you have to pay them $500,000. How are you going to get that money? You're going to sell your business just to pay them off, and then now you're out of business. Maybe you don't have the liquidity to do that. Maybe you have to sell the business in order to pay them off. Not a good thing. So life insurance is an easy answer of, okay, here I could pay them off. They're gone. Okay, great. Now I can still run my business, and now guess what? I keep 100% of the income from the business because they're out of the picture, and I don't have to include them. It frees up my capital to maybe hire somebody else at a much lower price, or hire multiple people that my partner's maybe not taking all that money. So that's why life insurance is used. So the structure of that is very important, because the IRS and Supreme Court, they just made a decision that you don't structure this right, It could be all messed up. Now, here's why you have to review it every year. You may have valued a business at $1 million, okay, and you've been at business for 20 years, and you may have bought the right insurance at the time. But 20 years down the road, maybe the business is worth $10 million. Maybe it's worth $100 million. Yeah, but I got that $1 million policy. I got that $500,000 policy. Well, that's not going to do you much good if the business is worth much, much more. And how liquid is that business to pay that off? So you have to review that annually, and also at your demise or at your partner's demise or at your multiple partners' demise, the IRS is going to take a value of that business also. So if you don't have that right number, it's going to be messed up. Now, we're going to talk about structure. How do you set these things up? So to be technical, a lot of times you'll have a cross purchase where you'll buy one business partner will buy the insurance on the other partner, and they'll leave their spouse, the beneficiary, or their family. And then the other partner will buy against the other. They call that a cross purchase. The other way to do it is to have the corporation pay for everything, which I used to love. I mean, that was easy. The corporation was the beneficiary. The corporation would pay it out. But now with the new rulings, that could create a big problem, because the corporation that would get the money now would value that corporation, let's say, whatever the value of the corporation is, plus the life insurance value. Now that's a much bigger value. And if I have to pay off that partner's spouse, it has to be on that much bigger value. So I don't have that preparation. So you need to review those. So then you have multiple partners, let's say, and each one has to buy a policy. So we have new solutions to make this better. So some of it is you may want to buy the insurance on yourself and endorse part of that death benefit to pay for somebody else, and buy a high cash value policy to do that. We like this. We call that endorsement cross purchase agreement. We're going to endorse some of the death benefit to the other party to pay off the other party, but we're going to put a big cash value policy that I'm going to take advantage of for my own self. And then if we ever dissolve the agreement, we can always get rid of the endorsement, or we can change the endorsement later. We can put it in a growing death benefit policy so that as the business grows, that grows, and the endorsement can grow. And we review it every year as partners. Huge way of doing it. The other thing that we started to see just last year, is setting up a limited liability corporation, or an LLC, to own the insurance policies. This way, it does not come back into the corporation, and we can have multiple policies inside this limited liability corporation for ease of making distributions. One of the old ways of setting it up, which I'm going to tell you something, 90% of the life insurance agents out there don't even know about this Supreme Court ruling. 90%. If you asked your insurance agent, hey, do you know anything about Connolly versus Treasury? See what they know. Connolly versus Treasury is what it's called. Now, we were talking about this last year ad infinitum, but apparently this got fought went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the structure of this type of policy, where the corporation owned it, changed. It's now different. So with that difference, you have to really update your policies, and you have to have your business valuated at a real valuation, especially as you get bigger, as to what it's worth. You need to know your worth, because you may think it's worth X, IRS thinks it's worth Y, the partners may value it at a very different number. And when we set up buy-sell agreement, we used to set them up like, do like a handshake agreement and say, the one thing I would tell partners, like if it was two partners and they didn't have anything set up, and they go, well, how do we value our business? And I would ask each one, well, what would it take for you to walk away? How big a check? And that was one way we used to come up with a number. Not a completely accurate way, but at least they can both come to a number that they agree to, and then we'd supplement it with the insurance for that amount, or half that amount if it was 2 partners, or a third if it was 3, or, a fifth if it was 5, But that's how we used to determine it. So determining the amount is very important. You need to know your value. You need to know your value. You need to know the valuation. And again, you need to review that, especially as you grow. It could change dramatically. And we are experts in this area of life insurance and helping businesses put it together. And we advise attorneys, accountants, and work with them together to devise the right plan that works for your situation. You've been listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. My name is Neil Himmelstein. I can be reached at 631-647-4694. You can catch past episodes on themainstreetcode.com, or you can email me. I prefer you call me. I like to speak to people. And or if you want to listen to Apple or Spotify, you can catch past episodes there as well. Thank you. Have a lovely day and a terrific weekend. Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.